To anyone who's maybe going through that loss right now, they've lost their spouse, what encouragement do you have for them?
There is hope.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's times when you can really have a lot of joy.
Well, I'd like to introduce you to an old friend and a new friend. Amy Perrell and Carrie Mueller are here. Just catching up with Amy. Now, you were episode 9 of my podcast, A Widow's Heart, and shared your incredible story. And that was like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
It was 2 years ago. A lot has happened within the last 2 years since then.
Well, tell me a little bit again about your husband, Jay, for those who don't know. And you can always go back to episode 9 of A Widow's Heart. Otherwise, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about what happened.
Honestly, I was completely blindsided, did not see his passing coming at all. And just basically, he didn't wake up one day, and I thought he was sleeping in. And when I went to wake him up or check on him, he was gone. And it was right at the beginning of COVID, May 7th of 2020. So my kids were home. My older one actually happened to be at a friend's house. It was just so difficult. And I think I've always been that one to bring over the pan of lasagna to somebody that loses a spouse. But you really don't get how bad it is until you actually go through it.
And how many years has it been for you, Amy?
So it has been, I'd say, almost 4.5.
Well, and I have to let you know, our listeners, that Carrie and Amy were stopping by thinking maybe we're just going to sit around and have a cup of coffee, which is what we're doing, except we're recording a podcast. So it kind of surprised you a little bit because I thought, it's really an important conversation and a way to give hope to others. So anyway, thank you so much for the medium cold brew. I've got my cream in there. What are you having?
Actually, a medicine ball.
What's that?
It's like lemonade and iced tea.
Wow.
It's delicious. I'm not, usually it tastes really good when you're sick, but I'm not even sick, and I crave these. They're so good.
I love that. And that's from Starbucks, too. What are you having?
Well, actually, I woke up and already had a Zip Fizz this morning, so I'm already ready to go for the day, so I don't need a coffee.
Oh, my goodness. Well, okay, so Carrie, I know that, and we'll find out how you met Amy and how this all came together, but if you don't mind sharing a little bit of your widow story. And as you mentioned, it's just only been 2 years, hasn't it?
It'll actually be 3 years now in November. It was totally unexpected. Like Amy said, my husband, Jason, he woke up one morning in middle of October and he couldn't move his left leg. And so then I decided, okay, well, it's like 3:30 in the morning. I said, he just thought it was a pinched nerve. And so I'm like, well, if it doesn't come around, I'm going to bring you to the ER. And so it never came around. He just kept stirring in bed. And so I brought him to the ER, and then we found out at that time that he had a brain bleed. And so he was transferred down to Abbott, and he was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and he was anticipated to come home. He was going through rehab, and we were getting the house ready to go, and he never made it home. It was very devastating. And during that time, it was COVID, so the kids couldn't go visit him. And so that was a hard transition also. And you have this feeling like they're going to come back and we're going to figure this out. And then now your world is just upside down.
My husband's death was very sudden. Many, many, many years ago. It was an accidental drug overdose. Yours was sudden, Amy. And then this is the first time I've heard a story like this where, you got him the medical help he needed. And he was in rehab and he was ready to come home. And he didn't make it.
He didn't make it home, yes.
Because it seems like when there's a longer death or an illness or cancer, you get the anticipatory grief and thing along with that. But I've never heard of this. So what?
Yes.
I don't even know how to ask the question.
Ultimately, he developed some blood clots while he was in the hospital, or maybe he had them before. That we don't really know. So it was a pulmonary embolism that he passed from. Because of the brain bleed, they couldn't get him any blood thinners. And so he was kind of fighting 2 battles there. And so he never made it home. And it was like, what's the next step, And it's like, you totally shut down. And my legs are shaking right now. I had so much like pain in my legs and shaking from anxiety after that. And so it's kind of bringing that all back. And so you have so much support and the kindness of the community. And it was so overwhelming. And I knew that that's what I wanted to provide support for some widow too someday, because I went back to work about a month later and I said to my boss, I don't know where my life is going to lead me, but I do know that I want to support widows someday in somehow, some form. A few months later, I think it was maybe 6 months down the road after Jason had passed, a mutual friend of Amy and mine, she says, I think the two of you need to connect, get together. You're very similar. And so we met for coffee one day, and Amy's like, well, I'm going to meet with so-and-so, a meeting, tomorrow or 2 days from now. Do you want to join me? And I said, I don't know if I have the time or the energy for this, but something my heart says, yes, I need to do this. And so that's kind of where it began, and yes, yeah.
Wow. Well, and we were going to get to this incredible organization that is coming together to help widows with you. I'm Pamela Endell talking with Amy Perrell and Carrie Mueller. And I know we could do a whole podcast on just your journey alone, as we did in the past with Amy's. And I'd hope to do that, one day in the future. But, you jump from that time in the hospital when they told you that your husband was no longer alive. What helped you move forward right after that?
I have 2 kids. I have she's now a freshman in college and then a junior in high school. So I have a daughter and son. They were 13 and 15 at the time. And so, just going through the driver's ed and all that stuff. And right, you have, I have these 2 kids at home, and I'm like, well, my role first is their mom. And so I need to provide for them, and I need to make life as consistent and normal as possible for these 2 kids of mine. And so that was my goal. And that, in all the brain fog and the grief and anxiety, you in the back of your mind, you said, okay, this is what I need to do for my kids. And you just wake up every day and you conquer and take the next step forward, and actually I have to say, Pam, this radio station was a big lifesaver for me too. Every morning I would have on KTIS and just crank up that music. Music was a big therapy for me. So yeah.
It is. Yeah. And you had the small children at home at the same time. And did you find yourselves delaying your own grief because you had to be there for them?
I would say 100%, because obviously as a mom, your kids come first. I think my biggest driver was I need to be able to weather this and be strong for them as an example so that they know they can also get through it too.
Yeah. What are you doing? You still have a business, don't you, Amy?
Yes, that is still, yes. So luckily we were able to hire a president who runs it. I always say a good woman knows her limitations. And so I do get to go in for some fun meetings like celebrations, holidays, employee lunches, and a quarterly business ownership meeting.
Good for you.
Is where I've stepped out of the day-to-day at this point, and family always comes first between my kids and my mom and the Widow Collaborative. Now I see a t-shirt for the Widow Collaborative. A smart woman knows her limitations.
Yeah, is that what you said?
Woman, yes.
Yeah. and then Carrie, are you currently working, or you're busy? You're a mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. I have a full-time job with the school district, and so I do occupational therapy in the schools, and so I am that full-time, and then in the evenings with my kids. My son's in football, so catching his games, every night. And my daughter's actually coming home from college this weekend, so trying to get some time with her and, and just keeping up the household.
I remember in the first early days too. I just remember because I didn't have littles at home, but I had my 2 dogs, which were angels, absolutely. But I just remember sitting there going, I could have a good pity party. I wish someone would make me a sandwich, because you have to do everything.
Yeah.
Where before you kind of shared the load. Okay, so we're talking with Amy Perrell and Carrie Mueller. The months go by somehow, the days go by, and somehow you just put one foot in front of the other. And then let's go back to the coffee that you had, Carrie, with Amy, and how this now, we mentioned it earlier, it's called the Widow Collaborative. And wow, what is going on with this?
Well, a mutual friend who knew both of us, actually, she went to high school with Carrie, and I worked with her at my kids' school. We decided we were just going to meet. And honestly, in that first conversation, I think Carrie had shared how, they had just had a shooting event in memory of her husband.
And my husband was big into shooting sporting clays. And
I was going to say, clarify shooting event. Okay.
So the company that he had worked for put on a big fundraising event for my kids for college funds and stuff. And so they put on this memorial shoot, a sporting clays in his honor. So we had that.
And she got up and spoke and, shared
something said, Carrie, you need to, even though if you don't know if you have the strength, you need to go up and talk to these people and thank them for their support and let them know what's going on in our life and what the kids are up to and what I'm up to. And I had this whole list of things I wanted to say, and I was so nervous ahead of time. But once I got up there and spoke, I just, it's just, I think if you speak from your heart, it just comes out naturally. And so it was just like, that's just what I needed to do. And I knew at that point too, God was there. Like he was like, I prayed for me to like be able to do that, speak that. And I knew right there I was at ease and God had me. So, yeah.
So out of that was born the Widow Collaborative. Now, is this something that you had been mulling around, Amy, and you had met other women too, and thought, let's do something?
I would say since I'm probably a year and a half ahead of Carrie, I mean, it had given me more time to think about how can I take this horrible event and do some good with it? Because I really do think that's probably, for me, been the best therapy ever.
Yes.
Just taking something bad and turning it into something good. And so when I met Carrie and we started talking, she had that same desire, that same passion and kind of fire within her that, we wanted to be strong for our kids. We wanted to turn the situation, as bad as it is, into something good. And we knew, like, right then and there, like, we're going to do something. We're not sure what it is.
But we had no idea.
We have a desire. And that's when we started visiting other organizations. Like, we would call up the executive director for Brighter Days and be like, can we come talk to you? And discuss, like, where are the gaps? Where, like, what do you see? Where are needs not getting met? And we did that with I feel like it's almost every organization in the Twin Cities. It's been, it's been amazing.
We really, before that, we had no idea that these resources were out there because, you're not in the mindset to be Googling things and or anything like that. And so in the process, we're like, wow, there are resources out there for widows that we had no idea. And so how can we let people know about what resources are out there?
There's some amazing resources.
So tell me now, I'm looking at your website. I love it. It's called thewidowcollaborative.com. And tell me how the website works. Do you guys have groups that meet, or is this a clearinghouse for resources, or how exactly is a widow maybe or anyone who's on a lost journey right now?
Couple of key features to the website. The first would be a widow can come in and create an account. Most important thing we really want is their zip code, because that will filter what resources cover their area. We're focusing on the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, but truly, if somebody from, let's say, Texas or Iowa or wherever wants to use this website and be an ambassador for their area, we can tap into that as well. We just want to make sure that there's an easy way for widows to access. Like if you're looking for social groups, there's so many out there. We don't really provide any groups ourselves. We really don't want to do what's already been done, and there are amazing groups out there. So the connecting to resources is a really big part, and we're really hoping to draw in, widows for years have been sharing resources with each other, like, hey, I have an amazing plumber. Here's his information. Like, can't we put that online? And we also do our vetting in the background.
That's what I was going to say, and I know you do. You would not do this without doing that, and that's what sets your heart at ease when you're kind of navigating life alone, especially for the first 1, 2, 3 years. It's like who do I trust?
You feel so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's
wonderful.
A big part of it. Another piece is, we call it our compass, which is like, there's a lot of checklists out there that you can print and kind of like check, I've done all these things. But it's a little interactive where it'll save your progress, and you can kind of go back and just look and say, okay, what stage am I in, and have I done all these things? We just don't want people to feel like they're missing something huge, because I know that was always a fear of mine. Like, what am I missing? And there's no manual out there. So at least It's not perfect. I mean, this is all definitely to be refined, but it gives guidance.
And technically, are you the founder? Are you a board?
We're a board,
Okay.
and the four of us are co-founders.
Okay, and who are the four of us? Because I know we've got you, Amy Perrell's here, Carrie Mueller is here, and who are the other two?
And then we have Annie McDaniels and Jody Sawija. Annie McDaniels actually happens to live right next door to me, and her husband, Mark McDaniels, was a part of my story when we spoke earlier.
That.
And
And she became a widow after
she is
you
a
did.
widow. He passed away 20 months after my husband did, and he passed away from a brain tumor. Sometimes when you feel like God is putting you in a place and you see all these things going on around you, that I just felt like there's a clear message here, and we have the resources. We have this web design company. There's something really
It's a
good
beautiful
we can do.
website, you guys. It's
They did such
really
a good
wonderful.
job.
Did a good job.
I'm looking at the four of you, and it says navigating loss, widow support, and embracing hope. I think those are the three cornerstones. That's for sure. So you sign up. There is no charge.
No.
How do you usher that person through, and what resources are available?
So somebody signs up and they have questions. We also have a place that they can connect with somebody, one of us on the website, and so they just fill out a form, and then we'll give them a phone call and see what kind of questions they have and help guide them through, like if they're looking for like a grief group, or if they're looking for some kind of like financial support or things like that. We'll just kind of guide them to what resources are out there, and also in that, we might like meet with them with coffee or something, just to kind of connect with them, and then hopefully lead them to somebody else that they can share their time with. Like Amy said, there's groups out there, so we kind of want to really get everybody connected to some kind of other person or group out there. The resources are anywhere from your household stuff to like grief groups to financial support.
Through my work with widows over the years, I think that's the number one thing, too. I mean, I don't want to say number one because everyone's a little bit different, but one that resounds with everyone is finances.
Yes.
Whether you're a multimillionaire or you need to file for bankruptcy, you don't know where to go for that advice and who you can trust. And you've got vetted resources on your website.
Yes. Some people might come and think, oh, they can come and take care of my mortgage for me or something like that.
Yeah.
That's not,
No.
we're not here to do that, but we can guide you to some resources that can maybe help with some of that financial challenges.
And then right along with that, too, is legal, because, just getting through each marriage is different.
Yes.
And I think one of the main things I learned, and it doesn't matter age, but a lot of widows, women who have lost their husbands, have no idea what their financial situation is. But you can steer them in the direction to the help they need. You're not the help, but you're the help to get them the help.
Yes, we're kind of that middleman that
Exactly.
directs them to the right resource for that.
And what are Carrie, I'll ask you your experience with like mental health. I know that after about 2 or 3 months, it was when I came out of a little bit of the fog. I realized I needed to find a Christian counselor or therapist to help me work through a lot of things. And how do you guide people in that area?
Yeah, well, me personally, I knew that people did me good. Like when I became widowed, I knew that I needed to be around others that went through the process. So I was looking for groups to be involved in, or like counseling or just somebody to connect with, because that's what helped me through this. And so I think that, everybody's different in what they're looking for. Some people kind of are more internal and they don't like to reach out. But I do feel like that support of just being able to talk to somebody else, that especially if they've been through that, has been a huge healing moment for me, I guess. Yeah,
I would say, too, I think it's really important for widows to connect with other widows. I mean, the losses are all different and unique in their own way, but there's something just magic about when a widow talks to another widow, because we all get it. There's no judgment. You can say things so much more openly.
Yeah.
The depth of friendships that you can make with other widows is pretty incredible.
Yeah. My circle is so huge. And I've always said, I've got these sacred secrets in my heart, because it's things that only widows can talk to each other about.
Yes.
The how, why, your husband is in heaven, and I don't share it with anybody else. It's up to you to share that, if you want to. But you're not going to go to your family reunion and start talking to your
Right,
cousin,
right,
and talk
right.
the way that we are able to do that.
But I think that, like, if, say, someone is uncomfortable or doesn't feel, maybe they have the strength to go to, like, a group or a meeting or something, like, I'll say, I'll go with you to the first one. I'll kind of, like, sometimes just having one other person there to kind of walk that journey with, is very
It's hard to go
helpful.
alone
Yeah.
that first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
When you guys walked in, Amy and Carrie, you had this beautiful, it's a cardboard box, and stamped on it is TWC, the Widow Collaborative, with a beautiful string around it. And I started opening it, and there's tissue paper, beautiful blue tissue paper, and there's a little notebook and a Widow Collaborative pen. And then I'm like, what is this? Tell me what is in this box and what the box is for. It's so beautiful once I found out.
Oh, thank you. We really wanted to give people almost more of an experience rather than another gift, like a plant or a candle or whatever. But this is more of an experience. So it's a sky lantern. And we've included the Sharpie that has our little collaborative logo on it. And you can write a message to your loved one on the sky lantern. And then there's a filament, and you basically light, you put the filament in its place, and then the lantern will fill with hot air.
And it floats
and it
in
will
the sky.
float up into the sky.
I've
and
been
so
to a couple celebrations where they've done this, and that's so beautiful.
they
I
are
love it.
beautiful, especially to do at night. There's some rules. You have to be careful.
Right,
Like
yeah.
you're far away from the airport and not too windy of a day, but this is just a package, and also we'll write a card just basically letting these widowers know they're not alone, that there's unfortunately so many of us out here, and just hopefully that will bring a little bit of comfort to them as well.
Well, it's called thewidowcollaborative.com. And what would you say, Amy, to anyone who's maybe going through that loss right now? They've lost their spouse. What encouragement do you have for them?
There is hope for sure. I think being on the tail end of it or after, you will be happy again and that you can find joy again.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's times when, goodness, I'm sorry,
I know.
times when like you can really have a lot of joy.
Carrie,
Yeah.
I know. That's why we have Kleenex right here, because it doesn't matter. I mean, something will hit me. I'll hear a song, or for some reason it's eucalyptus, because John and I love to go drive in Northern California and smell the eucalyptus trees, and that will always just break me every time. But
Yes. I think time is like, there's healing with time, but yet even if it's been 3, 4, 5 years, there's always going to be these moments that are going to like be little triggers, reminders, and not that it like brings you back, that you're like completely sad and it's going to throw off your day, but it's like this little remember me type moments, type things, and which is good, because that just shows the love that you had for your late husband or spouse,
what is
so,
that saying? The measure of your grief is the width of your love, or something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah. And so they're more frequent than others. And, you think you're doing great. And I think that you got to know that, yes, you will find that joy, you will find that hope, and you will have great days. But then, you're going to have days that really aren't that fun either.
They suck.
They suck. Yes.
Exactly.
And,
well, you almost need to lean into those days and let your body process the grief too, because you have to let it be sad. And
Yeah.
it's like you heal every time you cry. You heal.
Yeah. And that's what I figured out too. There's these challenges in life that you're like, oh my gosh, can you throw something else at me at this moment? It's so much. But then every challenge, you have growth with it. And so you do, I feel like I'm so much stronger than I was before, just because of all these different challenges and this growth. Keep going. And
I
so
totally
then,
would agree, because I am a better person today than I was 5 years ago, hands down.
Yeah.
And you walk by faith, because I just remember those why God moments, and out of each time I like want, and it's okay to yell at God, it is, but every time I was just like, how could you do this, blah blah blah. I know you didn't take my husband to change my life, but something amazing would happen.
Yeah.
Before we go, do you have like a God wink story to share at all?
Okay. Well, there's a few of them.
Everyone does.
I know.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay. So about a year before my husband, Jason, had passed, we had these new neighbors that moved in next door. Didn't know them at all before. The neighbors, they had some boys. They were a little bit younger than my kids' age, but the boys would go and play and they would hang out. And then through them, my neighbor and I became really good friends. And we went on vacation together. And then when Jason passed, it was like she was the solid foundation. It was like God sent that family to live right next to me because like that, the faith that she had just helped me like through this process. I can never repay her, I guess, for the kindness and the support that she's provided me. And so I know for sure that was truly a God moment that
That's
he
amazing.
brought them here. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Okay, well, sticking with the neighbor theme,
Yeah.
I would absolutely say having Annie live next door to me, who is a widow now with 3 kids, and how both of us together just live right next to each other. And actually, when Jay passed, the neighborhood planted a tree in honor of Jay right in between our houses. And they put up a little plaque that says, for all those we remember in our hearts. And it sits right between Annie's house and my house.
God is so faithful. And I just want to thank you ladies for taking time today to talk about the Widow Collaborative and for listening to that voice. You could have easily gone into, like, as I mentioned, a good old pity party and, but you took it and you're helping others, which is just amazing.
It's completely healing for us to be able to help others through that. And so that just helps us in our journey too. So we don't want anyone to be alone.
TheWidowCollaborative.com. Anything else that either of you want to add?
No, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for the cold brew. And I was a little worried about you and your fireball over there or whatever else is going on, but now that I know what it is. Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, thank you.